I wanted a Lakeview hydrangea pet. He bought a power auger. This is the story of a wife with completely unhinged ideas and a tired husband who somehow always ends up holding the tools. At one point, he looked at the hillside covered in dirt and yelled,
"This is criminal."
Welcome to the slightly chaotic process of turning a regular lake house into a home resort we never want to leave. When we first moved into this house last year, the lake was the very first thing I noticed. Boxes were still stacked in the hallway. We didn't even have a real couch yet. And somehow, standing in the middle of all that mess, I was already designing a full hydrangea garden by the water. I turned to Tony and said, "We're going to make a hydrangea path all the way to the lake. It's going to feel like a private resort." He gave me the official face. The "oh boy, here we go again" face. In this marriage, that face is code for she said we, but I already accepted that I'm going to be the one doing most of the heavy lifting. How did this poor man end up married to someone like me? He must be so happy. So we went to the nursery and bought 15 big 5-gallon Bloomstruck hydrangeas. They were perfect. I drove home feeling like a genius, already imagining the dramatic transformation. Then I walked the actual slope. It wasn't a gentle garden bed. It was a steep, root-filled, poison ivy-covered hillside that had been ignored for years. The ground looked personally offended that I showed up with plants. I stood there for a long time. The lake was still beautiful. The dirt between me and the lake felt like it was laughing. I bought long sleeves and the thickest gloves I could find. I'm a pharmacist. Every summer I see patients suffering from poison ivy, including my husband. I know prevention is important, which is why I still somehow ended up right in the middle of it. We started clearing, pulling weeds, trying to avoid the poison ivy, failing to avoid the poison ivy. At some point, Tony got lazy and switched it to shorts. His legs got destroyed. He was so itchy, I brought home every cream and ointment the pharmacy had. I kept stopping every few minutes thinking, I want to quit. I want to quit every single minute of this project. But then I'd look up, the weather would be nice, I'd feel weirdly good. I'd sleep really well that night, and the next morning, I'd somehow find myself back in the backyard again. Tony would eventually appear with the "here we go again" face. He never really argues. He just sighs, picks up a tool, and becomes the entire staff for the day. That's our system. I create the vision for the home resort. He becomes the only employee. After days of clearing, it was time to dig. Tony had been casually mentioning an auger for months. This man had been digging everything with a regular shovel.
Tired?
Hey.
We should have bought the auger much sooner. I simply did not care about his suffering at the time. The power auger finally appeared.
You okay?
Yeah, it's something. Maybe I should test it. No, I think this is the closest you're gonna be able to get.
Okay, let's do it.
Every single hole was still a fight.
I don't know if I should stand in it like this so it doesn't.
The machine would go in, hit a thick root, and make that awful grinding sound. Tony was sweating like it was raining. At one point, he said his arms had gone completely numb and he couldn't do it anymore. He complained the entire time and still finished every hole.
This is criminal.
I had nothing to say to that because he wasn't wrong. We both looked like hobos by the end of most days. Clothes filthy, hair a mess, sitting there on our day off, laughing about why we keep doing this to ourselves. We did this for weeks. Not one dramatic weekend. Actual weeks of coming back to the same hillside, making a little progress, getting a little more tired, and questioning our life choices a little more each time. Some days I felt excited about the future home resort. Some days I felt ridiculous. Most days I felt both. That's the quiet truth about building a life you don't need a vacation from. While you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel glamorous. It feels like sweat, dirt, and wondering why you didn't just book a hotel. But eventually, the last of the 15 Bloomstruck went into the ground. This is only the pathway for now. The real garden right next to this path is still coming. And once that's finished, we'll be somewhere around 50 hydrangeas total. I thought it would look dramatically different the second we finished planting. It didn't. The plants looked small. It's going to take a few years before it really becomes the magazine-worthy garden I've been dreaming about. But for the first time, there is a clear direction, a soft line of green that actually leads toward the water. When we finished, we just stood there. We kept saying how pretty it already looked. We were proud of each other, and we were also extremely tired. This whole thing started as a vague dream. I wanted to live by the water. I wanted a hydrangea garden that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I wanted a better view from the house and a reason to walk down to the lake more often. I wanted a life that didn't need a vacation. We are still building that. One slightly unhinged project at a time. Next up is the hydrangea garden right beside the path. Leave me alone. See you in the next upgrade.